dear Sangha, we're very privileged. We have an opportunity to practice sitting meditation. Maybe the practice of sitting meditation is very, very ancient. We don't know when it began. But it's said that Buddha Vipassin, who lived 91 kalpas away, that is a long time. One kalpa is 3.2 billion years. So you can't imagine that 91 kalpas. Very long time. But he also practiced sitting meditation. And maybe in the place where you are sitting now, all those millions of years ago, somebody else was sitting and practicing meditation. And maybe they made the deep aspiration that in millions of years to come, somebody else will be sitting there and practicing meditation. So if you like, you can make that aspiration now, and this will ensure that in the future people also have a chance to sit in meditation, whether whether it's in this lifetime of the planet or whether it's in another lifetime of the planet. In the Buddhism, in the Buddhist teachings, we are able to expand our perception of time so that it becomes very, very, very large. Nowadays, when people talk about the planet Earth, they talk in terms of 4.5 billion years. That is the time that the Earth is said to have been in existence. We know that it's not exactly correct, because that is the time when the Earth manifested, but before that it had been in existence. In different forms it came together for that manifestation. But anyway, that is what we learn in school, that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And we also learn that if all the causes and conditions were good, the Earth will be there for another 7.5 billion years. That seemed very little when you compare with 91 kalpas of Buddha Vipassin. But part of our ability to overcome our anxiety about the climate is our ability to be able to see things in very long term. For instance, I think it takes 250,000 years to transform radioactive waste. So we know that we have a lot of radioactive waste on this planet, which is extremely dangerous for living beings, all species. And sometimes we think, oh, that'll be there forever, but actually it's 250,000 years. So that is a fact. And the first part of our dealing with our climate anxiety is to be able to see things in long term. And the second part is to be able to touch the reality of impermanence, touch the reality of what the human species is doing to the earth. And the third part is compassion. That is a wonderful thing that we as human beings, we can give rise to compassion. That means, first of all, our awareness of suffering, and second, that we know we can do something to alleviate the suffering. It's not just awareness of suffering, that's not enough. We have to feel that we can do something to alleviate that suffering. And that is what is called compassion. So we come together and we know that the destruction of our life on earth is going to cause so much suffering. And when we know that, it gives rise to compassion in us. But if we have too much anxiety, our mind will be taken over by the anxiety and the compassion will not be there. So we won't be able to do something to help. So that is first step, is we have to take care of our anxiety. And the second step is I don't think we have to. I think once we have taken care of our anxiety and we are aware of the suffering, then the compassion will naturally come up in us. Compassion is something very natural in living beings, not only in human beings, but in other animal species. Compassion is there. When I think the whales or the sharks, I don't know. Anyway, some big sea creatures, one of their fellow sea creatures is wounded, they will take care. They will bring food and take care of that. So we have that seed of compassion from when we were beings in the sea. That is, life was in the sea before life was on land. And so we have all been beings in the sea. And that is why we have things like mermaids. Because we remember half of us come from the sea. Do you remember in the last, if you were here in the last June retreat, or when we had the family retreat last summer, one young man, maybe 10 years old, he came up and asked a question. His question was, is the Minotaur real? Is Hercules real? And I think the panel didn't know what to do. So, and then he said, I really want to know. It's really important for me to know, is Minotaur real? And then the panel say, I don't know what they said, but I think they didn't really understand the question. I was sitting in the audience and I really wanted to put my hand up and come and answer, but yeah. Is the Minotaur real? So when we practice sitting meditation, we have an opportunity to look deeply into what is real Yeah, what is a real human being? A Minotaur, by the way, for those of you who have never met one, and you probably never will, except in your meditation maybe. A Minotaur is someone who is half a bull and half a human being. And in Greek mythology, the Minotaur was not a very nice being. And in the end, someone had to come and kill him. But in all mythology, you have the half human, half animal. In Indian mythology, you have Ganesha, who is half elephant and half human. And he is very, very kind, not like the Minotaur. And Hercules is a very big, strong person. And when the people in Greece, he's called Heracles in Greek. When the people in Greece had to go to war, they needed to have a hero who could inspire them to be strong and brave. So that is why Hercules arose. And maybe the Minotaur arose because the Cretans were the enemy of the Athenians, and the Athenians looked on the Cretans, where they had a lot of bulls, as an enemy, so the Minotaur became something nasty. Whereas in India, the elephant is looked on as someone who can help the human beings. So to be half elephant and half human is a good thing. So we all have the animal part of us, and it can be positive and it can be negative. And we can enjoy recognizing that we are the very young species, and that we come from species who've been living there on the earth and in the sea for much, much longer than the human being has been around. And the first living beings on the planet Earth were the bacteria. And the bacteria have continued to live until today. And where are they living? They are living inside of us. So when we have an opportunity to practice sitting meditation, it's an opportunity to be able to come back and to recognize what is this human being. Sitting meditation is a wonderful privilege. And if we have a Sangha to sit with, who gives us the opportunity to receive collective energy of concentration and mindfulness, and we contribute to that energy of concentration and mindfulness, we are very, very lucky people. And sitting meditation is always new. It is a discovery. We may decide before we begin to do sitting meditation, today I will meditate on this subject. but you don't know where it will take you to, that meditation. And you don't know where, when you come out of the meditation hall, what new insight you will have. So in sitting meditation, never put yourself in a prison. Allow yourself to be free and make a discovery. Of course, you need to have like the aeroplane needs to have the runway in order to be able to take off. In sitting meditation, you need to have a runway in order to take off. And the runway is maybe a guided meditation, or maybe some meditation that you have learnt. But the important thing is don't stay on the runway. The important thing is be able to take off. And in that sense, you must be very open and not have an idea that sitting meditation will go in this direction. Or then you may be like the train going from Paris to Bordeaux, then back to Paris again and back to Bordeaux. In your sitting meditation, if you feel that, oh, it always comes up like this, there's something not quite right. So in sitting meditation, one thing we come across is the oneness of our body and our mind. And this has always been realized by people for thousands of years. But in our own time, we have our own particular kind of science, zoology, biology, where people have microscopes, very powerful microscopes, so they can see the microscopic things about life, which in the time of the Buddha, we didn't have. So we may be, as a species now, in our own time, we may be privileged enough to have certain scientific informations that help us to recognize no self. Because in the time of the Buddha, people had much more time to devote to sitting meditation. They weren't running around like we are now. And from that point of view, they were much better meditators maybe than we can be now. But we also have an advantage that science can give us certain information which maybe can help us, our aeroplane, take off. So we can open ourselves up, not just to the teachings of the Buddha, but also to the teachings of science. And we may see that, the two don't contradict each other, they come together. So these bacteria are part of us. That is one way to see our no-self nature. At first, the only living beings on planet Earth were bacteria. But they developed in many different ways. They learned how to breathe oxygen. There was no oxygen on planet Earth in the beginning. The bacteria learned how to get it out of the water, H2O. And now we can breathe oxygen with the sound of the bell. It also helps. So in your body, you have trillions of cells, which we call human cells. But you also have trillions of bacteria. And some scientists say that the number of bacteria may be more than the number of cells. So you walk around not just as a human being, but you also walk around as a community of bacteria. On your skin are hundreds of millions of bacteria, and they protect you. Their protection. And in your mouth, millions of bacteria, hundreds of millions. And in the whole digestive tract, there are bacteria, millions and millions of them. So, and without them you probably could not survive. So meditating on this, you realize that you are not a separate human being. That is one of the meditations in the Diamond Sutra. The meditation to go beyond the idea of a separate self. The meditation to go beyond the idea of a separate human being, a separate living being, and a separate lifespan. So another thing that was discovered maybe in the 20th century, in the 1950s, was that at one time in the evolution of life, the other cells entered each other, bacteria entered each other. And at some time, the human cells, well, they weren't human cells at that time, they were cells in another living being that was our ancestor. At one time, other cells, when other bacteria got inside those cells. And that is why now the human cell has a nucleus, it has other things. And one very important thing that the human cell has is the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are what breathe for the cell. And if those mitochondria, which are not human, were not in our cells, we would not even be able to lift up our hand. So when you walk, when you do walking meditation, you can recognize that it's not just the human being who is walking, but the mitochondria are making it possible for the human being to walk. When we translated the third and the 14th, the third mindfulness training of the mindfulness trainings, and the 14th of the 14 mindfulness trainings. In the Vietnamese version, we have the expression thanh tâm nhất nhất như, thanh tâm nhất như, and that was translated as body and mind are one. Seeing that body and mind are one. And one day, Thầy said to Sister Đình Nghiêm, that is not the correct translation. Body, mind, one, like one. Yeah. So to say body and mind are one is different from body and mind are like one. Mm-hmm. So this is something we will look into in our sitting meditation, the oneness, or we realize the oneness of body and mind. Body and mind are not one, but they cannot be separated from each other. You can't find where one starts and the other stops. Yeah. So it's like that. When we say oneness of body and mind, we don't mean that we can't talk about the mind and the body in different ways. In the Master Tạng Hỏi, in the preface to the sutra on the mindfulness of breathing, said that the mind is not visible. You cannot see it. It has no form. It is not audible. You cannot hear it. It has no sound. You cannot discover when it started, and you cannot discover when it ends. It is like someone who is very hungry. However much food, it's never satisfied. Always wanting more and more. So there are ways like that we can talk about our mind. And recently, scientists in the West, when they look into the body, usually in the West we have the tendency to divide, to analyze. And when we analyze, we divide one thing from another. And that is what, and then we say, well, you belong to, you are a scientist, you look at one part of the body, and then another scientist will look at another part, and you both work in different compartments from each other. It's rather like the elephant, when someone brought a blind people to not look at the elephant, to feel the elephant. What is it? And then they took 1 ear and they said it's like this, and then they took the trunk and they said that the elephant was the trunk. We see everything separately. So in meditation we have an opportunity to go beyond analyzing. And science also, when scientists use the microscope, they can also go beyond their normal kind of analyzing. So looking at the body in Eastern meditation, in Eastern medicine, you look at the body in terms of energy, which runs in meridians. You look at the energy, then there's 12 different meridians where the energy run in the body. And you look at the body from that point of view. Yeah. So in the West, we look at the body from the point of view of systems. And we have different kind of systems in our body. And in these systems, we can discover the oneness of the body and the mind. This endocrine is one kind of system. It is the system of the glands, the thyroid gland, pituitary gland. That is one system. And then you have people who on their own, they separate from other scientists, they just study that. Then you have another system. It's called the nervous system. We know about quite a lot about that. And then you have another system you call immune system. And you think that all these systems are working on their own. But in fact, they are now, in the 1980s, it's discovered that they are really just one system. So the glands, the nerve cells, and the immune system, which is the white blood cells, the lymphs and things like that, they are just one system, all working together. And we used to think that in the brain, which is part of the part of the nervous system, that we have the neurotransmitters sending messages within the brain itself to different parts of the brain, but also getting messages sent to other parts of the body. And I don't know what neurotransmitter is in Vietnamese, and I forgot to look it up. But that is the chemical, the electrical, the chemicals that send messages. So in the 1980s, they discovered these molecules in the endocrine, the nervous system, and the immune system. And what we used to call neurotransmitters are in fact these peptides. And they are molecules of amino acids, and they can attach themselves to the white blood cells. They can be like neurotransmitters, but not just between nerve cells. So these peptides, there are about 60 or 70 of them, and they have an emotional color. They give rise to emotion. So what happens to one of these systems? It happened to the whole system. And you can probably add the cardiovascular system. You can add the digestive system, and they're also part of a network. So when we talk about the nervous system, we talk about the sympathetic nervous system, and we talk about the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system we talk about in terms of fight, flight, and freeze. These are three things you can do when you're in danger. Either you run away, that is flight, or you say, okay, I'm going to fight, and you fight, or you can't do anything, you freeze, you become frozen. And that is to do with the stress. That is one of the things that bring about stress, that activation of the sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is talked of in terms of rest and digest. This language we use, it really sounds as if all human beings do is fight, run away, freeze, or eat and digest the food and go to sleep. So it's a very narrow way of talking about things. But rest, to be able to activate the parasympathetic nervous system is very important for us all, and is really the reason why we practice sitting meditation, why we practice eating meditation, walking meditation, because then we can be at rest. And when you have a meal, when you have an opportunity to rest, and then your body can really digest what you eat. That if when you have a meal you are not resting, then how can your body really digest what you eat? So Thai has told us that to eat a meal can be very healing. It's not healing because of you're eating healthy food. You might be eating food that's very healthy, very biological, but in fact you are not resting, so it's not helpful. Whereas you might eat a food that is less healthy, but you really at rest when you eat it, then maybe it's more healthy. So you have to look from both points of view having a meal. But when we practice eating meditation that has been transmitted to us by Thai, to eat in silence and not to think about or talk about things which are negative when you eat, then you can heal yourself. When Sister Chön Khom was talking during the French retreat, she said that she talked about an OI member in Canada, Chön Sin, who was given, I think, 3 months or something to live, and he lived 15 or 16 years. And when we consider how our mind and our body are together and interacting with each other, then we can understand how someone can heal heal themselves. By taking care of one of these systems, you are taking care of all of them. And in our meditation tradition, of course, the thing that we take care of most of all is our nervous system. So by taking care of that, we are at the same time we are taking care of our immune system, which will help our health, and we are taking care of our endocrine system also. When there is a depression, when there is anxiety, according to this, it's very necessary to recognize what is happening in our body. We think that the anxiety, the depression is something to do with our mind, or at the most something to do with our brain. But in fact, it is affecting the whole of our body, and it's being produced also by the way our body is in that moment, the way our cardiovascular system is, the way our respiratory system is. That also will affect the way our nervous system is and our emotions are. So when we have a strong emotion, it's necessary to know where it is in our body, what is not going right in our body. Because the body and the mind are like a feedback system. The body part, we can't say the body and the mind, we have to say the part of the different systems that is mind part, and the part of the different systems that is body part. They are like a feedback on each other. So you recognize the anxiety, but at the same time you recognize what is happening in what you feel in your body, not just what you feel in your anxiety. And the same is true with depression. When you feel the depression in your mind, you feel where it is in your body. And sometimes it is said that depression is when the liver and this is in Chinese medicine, when the liver and the stomach are not in harmony. So at that time we can approach from the body point of view, and we can feel what is not right in the body, and we can bring our healing energy and our love to the part of the body that doesn't feel right. And that will help the part of the mind that doesn't feel right. So the helpful thing about the recent scientific research that has been done on the molecular level, on the molecules in the body, is that it helps us to see that these molecules in the body, they can manifest as matter, but they can also manifest as mind. The same molecule can manifest in different ways, two different ways. And from that point of view, we can learn how to heal our mind by using our body, and heal our body by using our mind. When you sit in a meditation, you really come back to your body. When we say you come back to your body, it means that your thinking, your perception, your awareness, it comes back to your body. That is the first thing that is necessary in sitting meditation. And then the second thing that is necessary is that for your mind and your body to be at rest. Not running after something, not trying to achieve something, but to be able to see just what is the state of my body, what is the state of my mind at this present moment. And we have a guided meditation which is on the awareness of the state of the different parts of our body. And you might ask, if I don't have an X-ray, if I can't see my heart, how can I know the state of my heart? And if I can't see my liver, how can I know the state of my liver? But in that meditation it says, breathing in, I am aware of the state of my heart. And breathing in, I'm aware of the state of my liver. I don't know if you can do that. Maybe you need a few minutes to really be in touch with your heart. You more in touch with it now, after you brought your awareness to that organ of your body. Maybe you're a little bit more in touch with it now than you were before. And you can, after you've been aware of the state, you can take care of that part of your body. This is using your perceptions, using your central nervous system to take care of your heart, your cardiovascular system. And the same is true with your digestive system. You can use your perceptions, you can use your emotions, your loving kindness to take care of that particular part of the system that isn't working properly. In the Satipatthana Sutta, we have the exercise. We go through each part of our body and recognize it. And it's said that aware of all the impurity in our body. But our body is more than impurity. The impurity is just a human concept, a way of looking, and the opposite is purity. But as far as a dung beetle is concerned, that is an insect that lives in the excrement of the cow. That is very pure food, which for us is impure. So impurity and purity are human concepts. And when we look at our body, we don't need to see it as pure or as impure. We need to see it as it is in that moment. So the mindfulness of the body is a wonderful way for us to be able to heal our body. The body is one of the five skandhas. And the other four skandhas are the feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. And so we see that our person is, the matter part is just one part. And then there are four parts which are immaterial. But if there was not according to the modern scientific research, if there was not that part that we call matter, the other four parts would not be possible. They arise together. In the Satipatthana Sutta, it is said that at the conclusion of each of the four establishments of mindfulness, there is a paragraph, and it says, he is, meaning the practitioner, is aware of the body from within and aware of the body from without. And then for the mind, aware of the mind from within and aware of the mind from without. And sometimes people ask, what does it mean when we say from within and from without? And the usual answer is, from within means your own body, your own feelings, and from without means somebody else's body, somebody else's feelings. But that can be interpreted in many ways. For instance, one of the meditations on the body is awareness of the four elements that make up the body, or if you like, 6 elements. The earth, the water, the fire, and the air. And we know that all these things are within the body, but also they are all outside of the body. So you could say that when I meditate on the air in my body, that is the meditating within. And when I meditate on the air outside of my body, that is meditating on the air, on the body without. So my body is outside of me and is also what I call me, and also inside of me. And when we come to meditating on the feelings, then you know that this feeling is arising in me. But if you're sitting next to somebody who is very peaceful, then you feel the peace of the person sitting next to you. And if you're sitting next to somebody who is very unpeaceful, you feel that unpeacefulness also. So then you have to ask is, whose peace is this? Is it my peace or is it your peace? Is it my anger or is it your anger? You feel someone's peacefulness next to you, then it becomes your peacefulness. So that, is it yours, is it mine? It's difficult to answer. But of course, if you're sitting next to somebody who is very agitated, and you know that person is very agitated, then you can do your practice of being peaceful, and your peacefulness can help the agitation of the other person. But if you say, oh, why do I have to suffer all the agitation of the person sitting next to me? Then you just receive the agitation from the other person. Anyway, in both cases, there is no real, when we look at the feelings, there is no real I that makes the feelings. And when we come to consciousness, that we're talking now about the five skandhas. In the four establishments of mindfulness, we just have body, feelings, mind, and objects of mind. What exactly is meant by mind? That is something I don't know, but anyway. Mind is where the mental formations, it's the mental formations that arise. The anger, the peace, the loving kindness, they're mental formations. That is mind in the establishments of mindfulness. And then in the five skandhas, we have body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, which is the same as mind. And then we have consciousness. And what the consciousness bit of the five skandhas, normally we will say that includes store consciousness. So store consciousness is very interesting because you cannot call it mine or not mine. You cannot call it individual or collective. It is both individual and collective. The collective is made up of the individual, and the individual is made up of the collective. So if we are sitting here together in the meditation hall, our individual consciousness is contributing to the collective consciousness, and the collective consciousness is contributing to our individual consciousness. And that is what we can do when we are sitting in a meeting. We can see that I am here following my breathing, with my own ideas, and everyone else is here following their breathing or not following their breathing with their own ideas. But we are all united by that store consciousness, by that collective consciousness. So even though my idea, it seems to be completely different from your idea, they are both coming from the collective consciousness. And this will make us much more peaceful in a meeting if we have the tendency not to be peaceful in meetings. Because we have the ability and also the responsibility to talk from our individual consciousness, but at the same time to say what we feel about the matter, but at the same time we have the responsibility to be in touch with the collective consciousness. And what can, and this is a skillful facilitator of a meeting will be able to be in touch with the collective consciousness and bring out something that is produced by the collective consciousness, and therefore, since we are in the Sangha, we all have the deep aspiration to bring happiness to ourselves and to others, then what is in our collective consciousness is wholesome, and we can bring it out together. We'll listen to one sound of the bell. So Thầy always wanted, Thầy said after sitting meditation, when Thầy touches the earth, very often the deep aspiration of Thầy is to be able to bring a global ethic and a global spirituality into the world. And the reason for us, for Thầy revising the 5 mindfulness trainings, the 14 mindfulness trainings, was in order to make the Buddhist contribution to a global ethic, a global spirituality. That means that we offer the mindfulness trainings to people who are not on our spiritual path, for them to be able to take out of them what they can to help relieve the suffering in the world. So I think we should be open to this, and I don't know quite the way ahead. For instance, when I was I think I was in the United States. We had a mindfulness training presentation. We had a mindfulness training presentation, and in that presentation there was a naval officer, and he was really inspired by the mindfulness trainings. Giống như người linh đó. And so he went back to his unit or whatever, and he took the 5 mindfulness trainings, and he took them with him. I don't know if he received them, and he wanted to share with other naval officers, other sailors about the 5 mindfulness trainings. So he said that he wrote to me afterwards, and he said he had to change the first mindfulness trainings because it said, I am determined not to kill and not to let others kill. But if you are sent off to, I don't know where you're sent off, Iran or Afghanistan, there may be times when you have to take out your gun and you have to kill. But he changed it in such a way that he says that I will only kill when I really have to, when it's really necessary. On a peacekeeping mission, I will only. So he changed the first mindfulness training like that. He asked me, is that okay? So I think it's okay. I think it's fine. And then the other day somebody asked me a question more difficult. So maybe we can all think about it a little bit. It's about the 3rd mindfulness training and sex workers. So this question had actually come up in a retreat. Now we call a sex worker is what we used to call a prostitute. So usually women, but I expect there are also now also men who make a living by offering sex to. Yeah. So there was an interest from someone who is a lawyer and for sex workers, and again that person is really inspired by the 5 mindfulness trainings, want to take and share with her clients, the sex workers, but how to share the 3rd mindfulness training. So I said, well, maybe you can rewrite the 3rd mindfulness training, but I don't know how you would do that. But all we want to fulfill Thai's deep aspiration that the 5 mindfulness trainings can become a global ethic, that everybody can receive. And obviously, if you're going to receive the ethical life, you have to do something to change your life. It's not that we revise the precepts all the time to fit people who don't want to change their way of life. But how can they help people in a situation where, and I see in both these cases the matter of right livelihood. How can we help people who are caught in a situation of wrong livelihood and haven't yet found a way to practice right livelihood? How can we help them transition, as it were, so that they can find a way of right livelihood, and until they do, they don't have to suffer too deeply. Yeah, dear Sangha, thank you for listening.